Good afternoon, fellow patriots. This is Matt Shea, and welcome to Patriot Radio, broadcasting live from deep inside the heart of the future Liberty State. Sponsored once again by On Fire Ministries, in the legacy of Dr. Stan Monteith, bringing you the story behind the story and the news behind the news, where it's not about right or left, it's about right and wrong. It's about our hope not being in man, but in Jesus Christ. About not ending in prayer, but moving to action. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Father, deliver us from the evil one.
Welcome to Patriot Radio.
Good afternoon, fellow patriots. This is Matt Shea, and welcome to Patriot Radio. Today, we are on the knife's edge of war between two nuclear powers, Pakistan and India. Also, signs continue that there may be a strike by Israel or the United States, or both, against Iran. And today our guest is Heather Johnston, who's going to be talking about what's happening in the Middle East from the ground, giving us a new perspective on what that means to the United States. Here at Patriot Radio, we want to give you the information before everybody else so you and your family can be prepared for the times that are ahead and the times that are already upon us. So follow us on Telegram at patriotradio.us. And we give you real-time intelligence, updates, and analysis, and also breaking news. And you're going to want to have that ready and handy, especially over the next week, and particularly over the next 72 hours, as you'll hear here in a moment. Also, if you need prayer in this time, or maybe you want to pray for others, patriotradio.us/prayer, so that you can hear the heart of the Father, but also that you can bring before him any issues you might have to walk through so that you can walk through in confidence. Now, that brings us to your wisdom from the Word today. And I want to stop and take just a moment to understand something. When Jesus Christ said in Luke 10:19 that he gave us all authority over all the power of the enemy. Now, authority is like a badge. He gave us the jurisdiction and the right to act against evil in this world. Power, he said, wait in Jerusalem until you are empowered from on high. That would be the spiritual gun, the 9 gifts of the Holy Spirit. But particularly in this day and age, the gift of discernment, discerning between spirits, what's evil and what is good, because sometimes evil can be very well disguised. And then responsibility, or the duty to act. So you have the right and jurisdiction to act, you have the ability to act, power, and then you have the duty to act, the responsibility. God has given us an area of responsibility. Whatever that is in your life, are you exercising the authority that Jesus has given you? And more importantly, are you operating in power of the Holy Spirit in that area? Because authority without power, well, it falls flat. Power without authority is tyranny. And responsibility without either, well, that's a very hopeless life. So all three were given to us by God, and that's what we're going to need in this time. That as we face the forces of evil, we can operate in the power of the Holy Spirit. Watch what God does transform the world through each one of us. So today, at home, ask the Lord. Jesus gives us the authority. Holy Spirit gives us the power. Father gives us the responsibility. Ask each part of the Trinity where maybe you're falling short. Maybe you're not exercising the authority that's been given you. Maybe you're hindered from operating in power. Or maybe you just have been sitting on the sidelines, not operating in responsibility. Ask God tonight where those things need to be brought into alignment with Him. It's going to do you, your family, but more importantly, all of us, a lot of good if you do that. That brings us now to your daily intelligence briefing, coming to us from the globalist front.
The future is built by us. We have the means to make progress on the global agenda.
I don't know what we're going to do. He resigned. Sawyer, what are we going to do without Klaus Schwab? We're going to keep him up there. That's why, because he is the perfect example of why we should never go toward globalism. Now, the United Kingdom, some crazed scientists want to experiment with dimming the sun. Now, if you missed it here last week, Lee Zeldin here in the United States with the Environmental Protection Agency talked about the fact that, wait for it, there was more than cloud seeding going on. And I want to just hit this head on right now. I got attacked by a lot of people. But it was interesting. 2 retired generals were the ones that agreed with me that more than cloud seeding was in fact going on. Some people call them chemtrails. But more was going on in the atmosphere than was being admitted. And Lee Zeldin last week, in a very little covered article, admitted that there was something more than cloud seeding going on. There was an intent to try to cool the atmosphere with the injection of chemicals. And now these UK scientists want to dim the sun as a project with global warming. And I've had on this show experts, some of the people that were actually involved in weather modification during the Vietnam War. So the bottom line is they want to have full control of the weather by 2035. But the current key focus of research is on sunlight refraction methods, or SRM, which involve techniques like stratospheric aerosol injection. Chemtrails. Admitted in plain sight. Process of dispersing fine particles high into the atmosphere or to the stratosphere to bounce a portion of sunlight into space. The third approach would be marine cloud brightening, where vessels would release sea salt particles into the atmosphere to make low altitude clouds more reflective. Well, how about we stop screwing around and this whole global warming hoax? We just stop screwing around with the atmosphere, because I bet there's more to this than people would admit. Where are those chemicals going? Are they going into our soil? I find it fascinating that the so-called conspiracy theories are now being so correctly and so currently validated that we're running out of them. And all of those people who said there was no such thing when Lee Zeldin came out with that, well, they owe everybody an apology, because what they have done is delayed the ability to stop this garbage with their own egos and their own arrogance. When you have 2 U.S. generals and former legislator talking about the fact that they're trying to experiment outside of cloud seeding even with our atmosphere, probably should begin to ask questions instead of try to put your head in the sand and try to slam everybody else's head in the sand so that we delay justice. Because that's really what you've done. For all those people out there that said that wasn't true, you owe everybody an apology. That brings us next to the Trilateral Commissioner Eric Schmidt warning that AI is about to escape human control. Let's gin up the fear. Make sure a new Terminator movie comes out so everybody's afraid. I think that AGI is already achieved and will generally be available by year-end 2025. According to Patrick Wood. I would agree with that assessment. During a talk at a recent summit, co-hosted by Schmidt's think tank, the Special Competitive Studies Project, the former Google head predicted that within 3 to 5 years, researchers will crack the case on so-called artificial general intelligence, or human-level AI. After that, Schmidt suggested all bets are off. What they're trying to do is to groom us, get us used to the idea of artificial intelligence kind of ruling our lives. Well, no thank you. And again, is this conspiracy theory? No, it's not. So why don't we do something about it? Why don't our legislators, starting at the state level, begin to do something about it? Not in Washington, definitely in Idaho and beyond. If you're in a conservative state actually listening to this or watching this right now, ask your state legislators, what are they doing to stop this craziness with AI and some of the craziness with putting chemicals into our atmosphere. That brings us to the selection of Pope. Here are the current chances of becoming the next Pope. Pietro Parolin, probably the most liberal potential successor to Pope Francis, 27%, all the way down to Fridolin Mbongo at 3%. Now, I noticed that Robert Sarah, who I talked about recently with Bill Jasper, and that episode is going to be coming out here soon, he has about a 5% chance. That's because Francis stacked the deck for the Cardinals in electing a new pope, and it's very likely a liberal pope, continuing in the same tradition, will be elected. I hope everybody everywhere, Catholic or not Catholic, is praying about this. That brings us now to the China front. India is preparing a military response to the terrorist attack in Kashmir, which led to the death of 32 people. According to preliminary information, strikes will be carried out on militant targets in Pakistan identified by Indian intelligence. India downgraded ties with Pakistan. Foreign Secretary told media briefing that they will decide soon whether to act against Pakistan. A lot of people are asking for a ground operation to take place, and I want to pull this map of the region up so that you can see it. As you can see right in the middle of the screen, that's the line of control between India and Pakistan. You can also see the line of actual control over in the upper right-hand portion there between India and China. Now, remember where these things are. So this line of actual control with China up in the northwest portion of Kashmir, and then down toward the center, right, almost dead center actually, is the line of actual control between India and Pakistan. And right above that, you'll see the Siachen Glacier, controlled by India, claimed by Pakistan. But the bottom line is in the Himalayan mountains there, a whole bunch of water comes off of that Pakistan wants to have access to. So now we're going to go. By the way, the Kashmir region is controlled by India, but claimed by Pakistan. Because of this terror attack that happened, a whole bunch of things occurred. Probably most prominent, India asked Pakistanis on certain visas to leave within 48 hours. It looks like that may be extended to Pakistani citizens under all programs within, I think, 4 days. Then India launched its aircraft carrier toward the Arabian Sea and off the coast of Karwar. Pakistan issued a NOTAM for a likely missile test in the Arabian Sea region in the same area where that aircraft carrier is going to be. And India is not just preparing a military response, but there has already been cross-border fire. I'm going to get to that here in a second. But most importantly, on top of this, India has stopped the flow of the Indus River water to Pakistan. In a government-released video, officials confirmed that all 4 sluice gates feeding the Indus River water from India to Pakistan via 4 dams and their corresponding canals have been shut. Any stoppage of river water will affect agriculture in Pakistan significantly, and particularly in Punjab and Sindh. Agriculture contributes to about 21% of Pakistan's GDP, and agriculture employs about 45% of Pakistan's workforce. Power cuts, since Pakistan uses river water for hydroelectricity, will also occur. If we can scroll down there to that map, you can see where this flows from the Siachen Glacier down into the Indus River Valley. And what is even more important than that is that Pakistan said any breach of the treaty regarding this water coming down the Indus River would be considered an act of war. That treaty's been in place since 1960. So the fact that India has done that, Pakistan considers an act of war. In addition to that, gray zone warfare appears to be breaking out as well, where the line of actual control near China, now this is up in the northwest corner, a major wildfire has broken out. If we can scroll down and take a look at that. China considers the Arunachal Pradesh to be part of southern Tibet and thus part of China. India claims part of that as well. So it looks like China may have used this opportunity for gray zone warfare. I'm not going to say conclusively. It's just interesting timing that's happened. And then, just breaking before we came on radio today, reports of cross-border shelling and light arms fire between India and Pakistan in the Lipa Valley in Kashmir. So on that line of actual control has started. And at the exact same moment, Indian Air Force launched a major military exercise. So you have Indian Air Force planes in the air. We're going to check back on this by the end of the episode to make sure that a full-blown war has not occurred. That said, the rhetoric between the countries is continuing to ramp up. Pakistan's defense minister warned that the world should be concerned about the risk of a full-scale war between two nuclear-armed states. In addition to that, Narendra Modi, the leader of India, said India will identify, track, and punish every terrorist, their handlers, and their backers. That's clearly aimed at Pakistan. We will pursue them to the ends of the earth. India's spirit will never be broken by terrorism. The United States then weighed in. U.S. Undersecretary of Defense Eldridge Colby said, quote, "We extend our support to our great ally India in the face of this recent brutal terror attack. India is a model ally that takes its own defense with the utmost seriousness." Wow. Strong statements there. And Indians across Europe now are preparing to protest in front of Pakistani embassies in Europe. Pakistanis will respond by organizing their protest in front of Indian embassies in Europe. And the UK is a country most worried about the conflict in South Asia spilling over to European streets because of the populations from both countries. So Europe, soft language, United States clearly backing India. And now it looks like this may spill over into the streets in Europe. In addition to that, China deployed its Shandong carrier near the Philippines into the Philippine Sea, marking the second time this month. It's operating closer to the Philippines. This deployment with a Japan Joint Staff Office map showing the carrier around 200 nautical miles east of the northeast tip of the Philippine main island of Luzon. So the Chinese now flexing their muscle. In addition to that, China banned exports of Korean products containing its rare earth metals to the United States. So the Chinese are trying to crack down on imports to the United States in retaliation for tariffs. Now, interestingly, the Chinese tried to say, oh, we haven't been talking to the United States. Trump said clearly that they met with China that morning. So a whole bunch of things happening behind the scenes, and the Chinese, once again, at least in their public face, not really speaking reality. And the reality is this, that the United States was at one time the largest manufacturer of rare earth minerals. And all we have to do is get back to that. Trump did something today on that front. President Donald Trump actually signed an executive order, and Congress is being asked to pass legislation. But this executive order is opening up minerals here in the United States to be mined. So Trump clearly sees what's going on there, and you can see the tit for tat going. But one more piece of this, Chinese factories have now slowed production or sending workers home as U.S. tariffs begin to bite. Now, this is what we've been talking about here on Patriot Radio, that over 10% in the Chinese economy takes a bigger hit than the United States. There are people out there that keep saying, oh, the U.S. is going to... We are not going to take a huge hit from this. It's just not going to happen. Our economy is too robust. However, China will. And any moving of manufacturing is clearly now likely going to go to India, other partners as well, but India primarily. China can't fathom that. And so Marco Rubio said today, quote, China is carrying out the largest military buildup in history. This is the fastest and most extensive peacetime military expansion the world has ever seen, not just in modern times, but in all of human history, end quote. It's because the communists will go to war before they give up power or lose power due to unrest because of economic decline. When we come back from the break, more from the Middle East front, and it looks like peace is a little bit closer in Ukraine.
Attention business owners and entrepreneurs, Patriot TV is launching a brand new TV series showcasing American-made products, and your business could be featured. Whether you sell your products online on Etsy or Shopify and dream of reaching millions of viewers on smart TVs like Samsung, Sony, TCL, and LG, or apps like Roku, Android, and Apple TV, this is your chance. We're searching for U.S.-based businesses offering all types of products and services proudly made in the USA. If you've ever wanted to showcase your products on TV like QVC or the Home Shopping Network, now's your opportunity. Support our American economy, grow your business, and be seen by loyal Patriot viewers across the country. Know someone with a business or have a business yourself? Don't miss out. Contact us at supportingpatriots.com today. Be a guest on this new exciting TV series. Let's put your American-made products in the spotlight.
The new Supporting Patriots show on Patriot TV spotlights great Patriot-owned companies and introduces them to Patriot consumers, encouraging them to buy American-made. If you're an America-loving Patriot that owns and operates his or her own business, and you have Made in America products or services, you're the perfect candidate to be interviewed on the Supporting Patriots show. If you'd like to be considered for an interview, email us at supportingpatriots@patriot.tv.
And we're back with the Middle East front. Reuters is reporting that the United States is set to offer Saudi Arabia a weapons package worth well over $100 billion. I suspect that that's part of an overall deal trying to bring forth the Abraham Accords. Interestingly enough, the Syrian leader seemed to be amenable to joining the Abraham Accords as well. That is, well, I'm going to have to see if that's real. That would be a shocker if he did. Also, nearly half of young Americans support Hamas. The number of 18 to 24-year-olds supporting the terrorist group jumped this year. That's because of our universities, clearly. Interestingly, Bibi Netanyahu's security detail is taking no chances. You can see them literally hands at the ready because the threats against his life are ramping up. Could, and I want everybody to mark this, and I'm saying this right now, could a decapitation attempt be coming against the United States, Israel, or both before any sort of attack on Iran? Interestingly as well, the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, and Egypt banned the Muslim Brotherhood. Now Jordan has banned the Muslim Brotherhood and seized their assets. I don't understand this. Why is the Trump administration not banning the Muslim Brotherhood? We know their connections. All our allies are starting to ban the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood was formed in 1928 by Hassan al-Banna to reestablish the caliphate. It's its stated goal. It is the parent organization, or at least the spawning organization, of many terrorist groups in the United States and around the world, including Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Why are we not banning them? Especially after the Holy Land Foundation trial, the largest terror financing trial ever successfully prosecuted in U.S. history, showed the connections between the Muslim Brotherhood and even local and national U.S. Muslim groups. Iran has agreed to allow an IAEA technical team into the country in the coming days to discuss reinstalling surveillance cameras at its nuclear sites. UN nuclear watchdog Chief Rafael Grossi confirmed. Maybe too little, too late. And that also explains why a U.S. Navy MQ-4C Triton surveillance drone is currently keeping an eye on Egypt, Israel, and Lebanon, and Syria. I think the United States has been extremely aggressive in the last few weeks, patrolling that area in the Eastern Mediterranean and the Red Sea and the Persian Gulf off the coast of Iran, which also shows a couple of other things happening. The UAE pressured the largest Islamic center in Ireland to close. I mean, that's actually a huge win. But again, this might be part of what Trump is trying to negotiate as an overall deal in the Middle East. And not too soon, by the way, over 50,000 Christians have been killed in Nigeria by Islamist extremists. I'm just going to call them jihadis in the past 14 years, yet the world remains silent. The UN has failed to investigate. The Secretary General has condemned it, and there have been no demonstrations in London or Brussels. That's because jihadis are always going to come after Christians and Jews. This is the face of it, which it makes it so weird that you would have people actually trying to support Hamas, which raped, pillaged, and has a stated intent not just to kill Jews, but Christians as well. Russia has officially refused to extradite former Syrian President Bashar al-Assad back to Syria on charges of war crimes and human rights abuses, following a request in January from the new Syrian government. Looks like that chapter may in fact be closed. That brings us now to the Russia front. A glimmer of hope from Romania. The Constitutional Court of Romania's decision to cancel the first round of presidential elections in December has been overturned by the Court of Appeal in that town right there. The decision can be appealed within 5 days. Be interesting to see if this opens the door once again for an actual conservative to run in the presidential election there in Romania. Now, over the last few days, there has been back and forth between Russia and Ukraine. Today, Russia's Lavrov says several signs moving toward a deal. Trump also indicated we might be close to a deal between Russia and Ukraine. And then Zelensky went ahead and opened his mouth again. Zelensky says Ukraine would do everything but can't budge on Crimea. Very interesting because they didn't budge on Crimea in 2014 when it was taken without a shot. Understanding the history of Russia, they have always needed a warm water port and have always tried to claim Crimea. One of the reasons it was given to Ukraine is, I believe, was to actually provoke a war later. I'm not the only one who believes that. Anatoly Golitsyn, one of the highest ranking defectors to the United States, predicted this. So, Kremlin now trying to strong-arm things, issued a nuclear warning aimed at the West as Ukraine peace efforts stalled a little bit, and also overnight launched a strike using North Korean missiles against Kyiv, leaving many dead, to which Putin was excoriated by President Trump. He said, quote, "Vladimir, stop," following the Russian strikes on Kyiv that killed and injured dozens. "I am not happy with the Russian strikes on Kyiv. 5,000 soldiers a week are dying. Let's get the peace deal done." So what is the peace deal? It looks like it's going to be close to this. The Financial Times reports that Putin is ready to freeze the front where it is and give up parts of Donetsk, Luhansk, Kherson, and Zaporozhye regions held by Ukrainian troops in exchange for the USA recognizing Crimea as Russian in a peace deal. Also, it looks like the United States would operate the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant, although it would be technically owned by Ukraine. That's what's on the table. So it's going to be close to something like this, it looks like, in the near future. Also, the majority of artillery shells used by Russian forces in Ukraine in 2024 were manufactured by North Korea. Between 75% and 100% of the artillery shells are North Korean made, and they have become a key military ally of Russia. And they're also getting their troops combat seasoned for war with the United States if China invades Taiwan. Also, Steve Witkoff and Marco Rubio came out against the Politico, which said, quote, "White House debates lifting sanctions on Russian energy assets Nord Stream," end quote. Marco Rubio came out and said this is unequivocally false. The media is trying to fish. So be careful when you see an article come up that you check back on it later, because a lot of times when it's the mainstream media, it's going to be correctly checked. Japan also lends Ukraine funds based on frozen Russian assets. And Russia is responding strongly against Japan after the country signed this agreement to lend Ukraine just over $3 billion for reconstruction, a loan which is backed by frozen Russian assets. The funds are being provided through the G7's Extraordinary Revenue Acceleration for Ukraine program, which has a set goal of providing $50 billion to Ukraine. So clearly, the alignment now of Japan away from Russia and China is solidified. Serbia's opposition filed a criminal complaint over alleged sonic weapon use. Now, this went underreported. I'm bringing it up right now because sonic weapon use has been, well, a conspiracy theory. Interesting to see what comes out of this court case. Now that brings us to the South America front. Former President Jair Bolsonaro was in the hospital for surgery as a result of being stabbed by a Marxist, by the way, years ago. The Supreme Court Justice Alexandre de Moraes has sent a court officer to the ICU to summon Bolsonaro to present his preliminary defense within 5 days. Typically, they actually allow them to recover before requiring that, but after this 12-hour-long surgery, due to being stabbed in the stomach by a far-left extremist during a 2018 presidential campaign, let's just call them what they are, communist Marxists, he is now forced to do something that obviously goes against his own health. And again, normally, the Supreme Court lets people recover before applying to procedural acts like that. Also, multiple areas of several provinces in Mexico report narco blockades and destroyed vehicles. Initial report of these narco blockades are due to an attack against a senior figure of the CJNG as the, let's call it what it is, civil war continues down there in Mexico. And a report has come out that Venezuela intentionally released prisoners in Venezuela to come to guess where? United States, under the guise of being gang members, to invade the U.S. That is, by definition, gray zone warfare. That brings us now to the national front. According to American Kinetics, and a great site to follow, there has been a surge in left-wing political violence. In addition to that, the targeting, again, of leaders and property is also surging. Have reports today of not just probing here in Spokane, but also around the country, and the attempt to ramp up violent attacks against leaders and property throughout the United States. One anecdotal report of a bullet hole in the back of a car should have everybody's head right now on a swivel. Take a look at that American Kinetics report. They put out great stuff. Interestingly enough, the DoD branch chief was caught by James O'Keefe's OMG saying that he called Trump illegitimate and vowed to resist him in everything he does. Pete Hegseth is insanely young, and nobody I know should be the Secretary of Defense. Same guy who tried to overthrow an election is just like truly setting us down a path of dictatorship. I think they don't care who they hurt in government. I believe that man's job is probably over. I did not confirm that before the show, but that just shows the entrenchment that's happening inside the U.S. government that needs to be rooted out by the Trump administration. And lastly, for the past 7 weeks, Social Security has been executing a major cleanup of their records. Approximately 11 million number holders, all listed age 120 plus, have now been marked deceased. Another 1.4 million to go, with the expected completion in 2 weeks. I want you to, if we can put that up there right now, I want you to see this very quickly. This is going to have a dramatic effect, because what this does is take people that were drawing from the Social Security pool off the books. This should, in theory, allow for more to be given to the current recipients. I haven't really heard a lot of people talking about this, but they should. And that is the briefing. Remember, the antidote to dependency and socialism is to be a God-fearing, self-reliant, freedom-loving American. And when we come back from the break, Heather Johnston.
Throughout history, the spirit of patriotism has prevailed. The battles may have changed, but the values remain the same. Today, in 2024, we find ourselves at a pivotal moment where the call for unity, freedom, and a better future echoes louder than ever. For more than 10 years, Patriot Mobile has been committed to supporting the values that make our nation great. With affordable plans and reliable nationwide coverage, Patriot Mobile is not just a wireless service. It's a call to action for those who believe in the American dream. Because this year is not just any year. It's the most important year since our nation's founding. Choose a wireless carrier that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile.
What do a neurosurgeon, a country artist, and a television and radio host have in common? They all saw the writing on the wall. Big banks sharing your financial information with big government. Join them as owners in Old Glory Bank, the pro-America online bank that protects your privacy, security, and liberty. Invest today at own.oldglorybank.com.
And we're back with our guest today, Heather Johnston. She is the founder and the CEO of the U.S.-Israel Education Association, USIEA, a nonpartisan group that educates U.S. government leaders on Israel-U.S. relations through tours and briefings. She also co-founded Israel's National Leadership Center, which has trained over 100,000 Israelis in leadership, including youth and military personnel. With over 25 years of experience, Heather is a respected author and speaker on Jewish-Christian relations and international politics. And before we bring her on right now, I want to talk about this, why this is an important thing. First of all, in the Middle East, you have all Islamic countries surrounding Israel. Islam has been at war with the West for 1,400 years. First invading Western Europe through Spain, then invading Eastern Europe through Austria. That's why you had huge battles like 732, the Battle of Tours, France, which began the driving out of the Islamic armies through Spain. And then you had, in 1683, the Battle of Vienna, which began the driving out of the Islamic armies from Eastern Europe. People don't talk about this much anymore, but in 1917, there was the end of the caliphate effectively, although not officially abolished until 1923, and the end of the war in 1918. But 1917 was the pivotal year of when the caliphate, the Ottoman Empire, was finally defeated. Many prophetic words spoke of this time, spoke of the time that the caliphate would be defeated. That's why the Muslim Brotherhood came into existence in 1928 to reestablish the caliphate. That is why Recep Erdogan and now deceased Fethullah Gulen worked together as part of a secret organization to bring back the caliphate in Turkey. This also explains why Saudi Arabia is fighting against Turkey, because Saudi Arabia believes it should be the head of Sunni Islam, not Turkey. In addition to that, Iran thinks that it should be the head of the caliphate through Shia Islam and the Twelver Jafari school. I want to talk about this very briefly. The Twelver Jafari school, they believe it is their duty to destroy Israel to usher in the Mahdi. The Mahdi coming out of a well in Qom, and walking down a highway that they have paved just for this purpose. So this is not as easy as, well, why aren't they just talking peace? We shouldn't attack Iran. Look, Iran is not going to give up its nuclear program. They're always going to try to salvage it because they believe it is a religious duty to destroy Israel. And if we don't understand what they actually believe and their stated words, which are constantly death to Israel, death to America, rebuke that in Jesus' name, we're going to miss this piece. We're going to miss this piece. And so the alliance between Israel and the United States, I understand what the founding fathers said about entangling alliances, and I don't believe in entangling alliances, but I also believe Israel has a right to defend itself. Israel has the right to defend itself and to bring forward requests to buy weapons from the United States to defend itself and actually pay for those weapons. So what we're seeing happen right now is that the United States has sent weapons that were already purchased in large part to Israel. and having all of these C-17A Globemaster 3s landing at Nevada Air Force Base in Israel is a sheer sign from an objective military analytical place that there is a war that is being prepared right now. And again, I want to go over this. How do we know this? How can I objectively look at the Middle East? Anytime there's a concentration of 2 or 3 aircraft carrier groups, in this particular case, the United States has 2, France has 1, aircraft carrier groups in one area, that is the first sign. The second is the movement of air defense assets into the theater, which has happened from South Korea and also from the United States and Europe to Israel. Not just short-range Patriot missile batteries, but also THAAD batteries, which are terminal high-altitude air defense systems that try to take out missiles being launched at their terminus. In other words, when they start to come back down. So the next thing that we look for is the positioning of ground troops in theater. Well, they're already there. And there's been a repositioning of ground troops from Syria, where the U.S. has left bases in Syria now and is moving into Iraq. In addition to that, we look for the positioning of hospital units, which is also happening right now in the Middle East through hospital ships. So all of the things are there for strikes to begin against Iran, both the U.S. and Israel. One or the other or both. Now, many people are saying, well, should we actually strike Iran? And I continue to ask this question, and no one has really been able to answer this. If Islam has declared war on the West for 1,400 years, the Iranians in particular have declared war on Israel and the United States. Russia is arming them up as the Iranians are arming up the Russians, and specifically arming them with technical advice, along with China. Why would we think that they are not getting ready to launch a strike against us first? Why would I say that? Because Hezbollah is gone. Most of Iran's proxies have been completely neutered. They see this as an existential threat. And the fact of the matter is the United States should have done something about Hezbollah a long time ago, especially after they killed all those Marines in Lebanon. So, with that said, does the United States have a right of self-defense? Does Israel have a right of self-defense? And when can that be invoked? When they say death to America? Well, in the United States, constitutionally, we should bring this before Congress and argue it. Unless Iran attacks us first, then of course we have the right of self-defense immediately. But let's not pretend that Islam, and particularly jihadist groups in Iraq, jihadist groups already on the ground here, jihadist groups like Hamas, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, aren't still gunning for the United States. And let's also not pretend that Hezbollah has not infiltrated Unit 910 and members of its special forces into the United States of America through the southern border over the last 5 years. Let's not pretend that. Let's ask ourselves a question. If we know what the threat is, what do we do about it constitutionally? And I'm going to bring up an idea here, and that idea is simply this, that letters of marque and reprisal were intentionally created in the U.S. Constitution to deal with non-state actors like ISIS and Al-Qaeda. And this isn't shoehorning anything. It had to deal with the Barbary pirates, which were non-state actors, although being given safe haven on the north coast of Africa in the Barbary states. The Barbary pirates were an Islamic terror group and the first people we fought a war against after the revolution. So when we come back from the break, we're going to talk with Heather Johnston about Israel, what's happening on the ground, what we can expect, and what this means for us here in the U.S.
American business owners, you understand the power of TV. If you have a product that you want to sell to millions of like-minded Americans who value quality, hard work, and supporting the red, white, and blue, Supporting Patriots is the perfect place. If you're ready to bring your product to a patriotic audience eager to buy American, then contact us today at supportingpatriots.com and secure your spot on Supporting Patriots. Let's build a stronger economy. When we buy American, we support our future.
I couldn't give anything a higher endorsement.
I would be remiss had I not include Cardio Miracle on my very short list of secrets.
It's the real deal. It's a real product. It's not another supplement.
I'm operating about 6 to 8 hours, and I've noticed that being on this Cardio Miracle has made a huge difference.
Since I started taking Cardio Miracle, about 8 months into it, the benefits have been fantastic.
You know, if I get hungry, then I just have a Cardio Miracle.
Not only is it safe, but it's necessary to take Cardio Miracle to stay well.
This let me sleep. It's showing up more energy, more get up and go, and it's all because of what this company does.
For me as a doctor, Cardio Miracle is a staple.
Cardio Miracle to me is hope in a glass.
To try Cardio Miracle for yourself and get a special fan discount, go to the host page right now and click the link for Cardio Miracle.
And we're back with Heather Johnston. She is the founder and CEO of U.S.-Israel Education Association. It's great to have you back here on Patriot Radio. How are you doing?
It's great to see you, Matt.
So the whole Middle East and now India, Pakistan is just pretty crazy. We've been monitoring this. So the question of the hour, will the United States for that matter, attack Iran? What does it look like on the ground for you?
Well, I think, Matt, that there's an indication here that we're going to continue to see some rounds of negotiations. The Pentagon, as of yesterday, appointed a policy leader, an expert that's taking a group of 12 experts to Oman on Saturday to continue these deliberations. So they're trying to advance to the next steps toward a nuclear deal. Now, whether they arrive at that is a whole other story, but they certainly are deploying their best, the top notch.
So right now, there's a huge buildup continuing. We've seen a whole ton of C-17s coming in with their defense assets into Israel. And then you have the pre-positioning of U.S. assets in Diego Garcia. All right. If there is an attack against Iran, would Iran try to activate terror cells here in the United States of America? And have you heard anybody addressing that particular threat?
I have not really been aware of that. I think that what is of great concern to the U.S. administration is just that we have our bases in Iraq and Syria still. To your original point, they're moving from Syria to Iraq, but we still have a vulnerability there where Iran could turn in any direction, not to mention the Arab nations that are surrounding them as well. And so it's a very tentative situation where you can understand why the Trump administration would want to, if they could, arrive at a nuclear deal. Do I think it's the best plan? No, but I do think that's the reason why.
So what do the citizens in Israel right now think? What is the average person on the street thinking right now? Are they thinking that they've had enough? I mean, we've been dealing with Iran for years, all their threats. Now they can have a nuclear weapon in a matter of days, if not hours. What do they think? Yeah.
Well, I think that the Israeli people and the Israeli government are highly conditioned and all on the same page that Iran needs to go. Their ability to strike in the region, their ballistic missile program, their enriched uranium program has to go. And that, it really would be a very simple thing to go in. It's an overnight group of sorties that can take out these enrichment facilities. It's not as big of a deal. And now that they have rendered powerless their air defense systems, they're extremely vulnerable. The Iranian regime is vulnerable. And so it's an opportunity that Israel has not had until now to be able to go in and strike. They're ready to do so.
So why should the United States support Israel, and how can people here in the U.S. do so?
Well, I think it's such an important question for your audience to understand the hour that we're living in. And I loved what you originally said, Matt, that we are standing in these very, very difficult days in the Middle East where the Muslim Brotherhood has reached its zenith. It is a fever pitch. And you've got these Abraham Accords prospects, nations that want to come in and normalize with the United States and also Israel. But it is a time like no other. And I do think that we are in that dangerous place where the United States, and as a Christian, we need to stand behind Israel with all that we have. You think about what the last year and a half has been for that nation, how wearisome it has been to be at war this long. And I think that the ideal here would be to strike Iran and be done with this nuclear threat.
And after that, then you have the issue of Turkey. We'll leave that for a whole different show. However, just talking about the rise of anti-Semitism inside the United States, and then this report now that 18 to 24-year-olds had a huge spike in support for Hamas. What is the disconnect here? I mean, we fought against the Nazis in World War II who were expressly anti-Semitic, and it seems like it's history repeating all over again.
It is. And I think that what we're learning from this, and certainly this war has exacerbated this problem worldwide. But I think what we're learning in the United States is that absent education, which has to be infused into our, starting in kindergarten, of coexistence and absent hatred and incitement. There has to be a deliberate education process that leads people out of that radicalism that by the time you get to universities, people are so far gone. And it's really, really stunning to see where we are. The second thing, Matt, is rule of law, period. And that's why we're watching the Trump administration come down on these universities, while we're sanctioning them, while we're moving billions and billions of dollars in their assets to prove the point that we're not going to tolerate that kind of thing. Education and rule of law are the order of the day.
Amen. So what can people do here in the last couple of minutes to support, and where can they go to find out more information with your organization?
Oh, please do. USIeducation.org is our website. We are educating on Capitol Hill and taking the senior leaders of our government to Israel on congressional advance tours. That includes through Judea and Samaria. And of course, we're highly involved in the missile defense collaboration between the United States and Israel and educating on that front, the Abraham Accords and all of the like. So we're right on the cusp and front edge of things.
So, and I may be in Israel here very soon. I'd love to reach out to you on that issue.
Oh, you should.
Yeah. So I really want to see there be a shift in the narrative right now. How do you think people can help shift this narrative against Israel? I mean, I can't believe people would defend raping and pillaging as okay and not understanding this 1,400-year war against the West. It kind of boggles my mind historically. So how can we change the narrative?
It is an education problem, education. And I also believe that, God has made it very, very clear that in these last days, he is going to raise up the remnant that will stand with Israel. I will beckon to the nations and lift a banner to the Gentiles. And they're going to carry you, Israel. They're going to put your daughters on their shoulders, their sons in their arms. And you're going to have, mighty and powerful people showing up in Jerusalem, just like the prophet Zechariah said, seizing a hold of the Jewish people and saying, we are coming with you because we can see that God is with you. And so we've got the Christian remnant, and then we've just got education on the other side of things. And every human being most people want to walk in truth. And to be absent truth is to be in deception. Why would you want to be in deception your whole life? And we've got to change the education process in the United States and different parts of the world.
I just pray for that spiritual discernment right now to know the difference between good and evil. Thank you so much, Heather. Just really appreciate you and look forward to talking to you again soon. Keep up the fight.
Great. Give us a call. Thank you, Matt.
Heather Johnston and USIeducation.org, USIeducation.org. Check it out. I want to go quickly to a couple things of breaking news right now. For the first time, the Associated Press has released high-definition raw footage of the assassination of Egypt's former president Anwar Sadat. Very interesting there that it would come out right now. Are they trying to signal something against Israel? Also, the FBI has arrested New Mexico Judge Joel Cano, who had an alleged Tren de Aragua member living in his home. That just happened here within the last half hour. Also, just going to double check here on what's happening as far as India is concerned. And as we're talking about this regarding India, understand, and I think that this does get missed, that India is also an ally with Israel. Indian diplomats have confirmed that Israel supplied the Indian MOD with precision-guided missiles within the last 24 hours. That has just happened, as India may in fact be attacking Pakistan here very, very shortly. May happen before the 29th, but certainly in the next 72 hours, we're going to be watching this very closely, because all signs are there will be some sort of an attack against Pakistan. Initial reports that have come regarding these clashes at the line of control between India and Pakistan. I do need to say this, that this actually happens fairly frequently. So the fact it's happening right now, they're trading artillery fire and small arms fire, okay, but the fact the Air Force was launched and Israel is now giving them missiles, yeah, this doesn't look like it is normal. Looks like there is a ramp up happening in the region, and particularly after Hindus were specifically singled out. In fact, they were made to pull their pants down or show their IDs before they were shot. Hindu nationalists in India, obviously enraged by that. Prime Minister Modi moving forward on some sort of military strike against Pakistan by all indicators. Also, looking like peace with Ukraine and Russia in the next 48 hours. We'll see. Could be announced as early as Monday. With that said, have a great weekend. Blessings to all of you. Thank you for watching us on Patriot Radio today. Remember, go to Telegram, patriotradio.us/Telegram, and sign up so you can have real-time intelligence, analysis, and breaking news over the weekend. This is Matt Shea. Thank you for joining us. Keep up the fight.